Natural immunity, public health's forgotten ally. This is a conversation I've covered greatly over the past 2 years simply because there's so much imbalance in the conversation being had. Big media companies have been very pro vaccine. However, they have not been pro natural immunity. And there hasn't been a fair conversation occurring. In this article, we discuss researchers continue to grapple with the question over value of vaccines versus natural immunity. It's a good question. And most people have forgotten that there is something called natural immunity and that you have something called an immune system that is designed to keep you alive and keep you healthy and fight off viruses and bacteria. The very thing that has kept the human species alive for thousands of years, we today act as if it doesn't exist. We're going to break this down as to why this is happening and show you some of the behind the scenes things that have occurred that I don't think you know about. And then, of course, I'll show you how to boost your immune system naturally. But before we get started, I'm Dr. Nick Zarowski, and welcome to the channel. Be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you have to hit that notification bell because YouTube certainly isn't going to tell you when my videos come out. They're more interested in taking them down. You can also get all my natural health videos at www.drz.tv. That will be the first step in you taking action in your health, in changing your health to be so much better and doing it naturally. Let's dive into this article. In the United States, everyone 16 years of age is now eligible for the COVID vaccine. But is this really the best? Okay, and this is the conversation that is so important to have, and nobody's having it. And if you care about your health and you believe in natural health and natural immunity at all, these are questions you have to really ask yourself, because all we hear is how good the vaccine is, but we don't hear the other side of the conversation. An alternative form of immune security hardly gets any attention, but it may have benefits that any one of the COVID shots now available under emergency authorization. This is important to understand that the vaccine is under emergency authorization. It has not been approved by the FDA. And many of us may already carry this protection, and no shot will be required. Now, natural immunity is the inborn process of catching a virus and recovering from it. This knowledge has been known for many years. The process has also shown to produce significant antibody protection against COVID-19, according to research funded by the National Institute of Health and published in January in the Journal of Science. The immune system of more than 95% of people who recovered from COVID-19 had durable memories of the virus up to 8 months after the infection. Now, it's important to understand that, well, it just happened to be, it hasn't been around, COVID hasn't been around that much, and they did this research, and so they had about 8 months to work with, right? But it's also important to realize that when they took individuals who were over 90 years old and they checked them to see if they had antibodies from the Spanish flu, 1918, they still did. Okay, so there's good reason to believe, off of history, research, and science, good reason to believe that people have antibodies many, many years beyond 8 months, okay? Now, symptoms don't have to be severe for protection to be strong. One study screened individuals who had recovered from a mild case of COVID-19 and found that immune cells not only persisted but continually differentiated in a coordinated fashion well into convalescence, into a state characteristic of long-lived, self-renewing memory. But is it better than the vaccination? One study from Denmark doesn't think so. It suggests that vaccine-induced immunity from COVID-19 may perform slightly better than natural immunity, which was found to prevent reinfection of about 80% of the time compared to the 95% effectiveness that the vaccine makers claim. But the problem is that's just a claim. There's no long-term research, and there's a lot of things being hidden by these manufacturers. What's in the vaccine? We have to ask a lot of really critical questions and make sure that we're making the right choices here. Let's go ahead and go down in the article and take a look at this right here. Vaccines allow an avenue for immunity without the risk that come with catching the wild disease. But to be fair, and this is important to be fair because this is what we keep hearing, to be fair, the treatment comes with its own set of risks. One problem is that vaccines may actually spread disease. And this is something that many people don't know about. In 2019, the Associated Press reported that more polio cases in 4 African countries were now caused by the vaccine than the wild virus. So the idea here is that, and it's a bad idea, is that vaccines are always good and they don't have any negativity that comes from them. So therefore, if polio is really down in these African countries, why do they continue to push the vaccine? Because now the #1 spread of polio is thought to be the actual vaccine itself, but nobody will acknowledge that. It's just, oh, we got to do the vaccine, and that's just the way it is. Now, the next thing is that I want to look at down here. Let's scroll down a little bit and let's talk about this. The most compassionate approach that balances the risk and benefits of reaching herd immunity is to allow those who are at minimal risk of death to live their lives normally to build up immunity to the virus through natural infection, which better protecting those who are at the higher risk. We call this focused protection. States the declaration signed by more than 43,000 medical professionals and more than 14,000 public health scientists. Okay, so this is important because we tend to see in the media that, oh, everybody has the same opinion that Dr. Fauci has. The reality is there's enormous amounts of doctors that they think very differently and don't believe in what he's actually saying. But we don't hear about them because we just hear about the media figureheads, okay? And so we have to think about this in an intelligent manner. And of course, what they're saying here makes a really good point, okay? Well, why not just let the young people go about their life and do the things that they need to do? And let's protect the older people who are more at risk, or maybe even the younger people who have multiple comorbidities. This is something we have to really think about. Now, more than 99% of people who have tested positive for COVID-19 have survived, suggesting that the natural protection built against this virus could be enormous. For these individuals, the risk of disease may have already been conquered, but officials don't seem very interested in examining this influence or rewarding the antibodies that have been earned the old-fashioned way. Okay, this is something that's so important because why are they continuing to ignore the science of natural health? Okay, why? I really think that this is a question that we have to really think about. Now, for example, Canada's Federal COVID Immunity Task Force believes the use of passports will be restricted to immunity conferred by vaccines, as there is more scientific evidence for immunity from vaccines than natural immunity. It's as if natural immunity has been removed from the conversation. In June 2020, the World Health Organization, and this is what I really want you to see here too, because this is important, changed its definition of herd immunity. The term describes a point at which enough people become immune to a disease to erase its risk. And it previously included those who had acquired their antibodies through natural infection along with vaccinated individuals. But now the WHO says in their new definition that herd immunity happens exclusively through vaccinations. Now we know, us intelligent thinking people, us common sense thinking people, that that's not true, right? But the bad part is that this is what they have changed the definition to. And unfortunately, well, people down the road, they will think that this is true. People who don't know better. If I was to bring this information up 20 years from now, after they have changed the definition, I was to say, no, that's not true. It can happen through natural immunity. People would look at you and go, oh, you're nuts. What are you talking about? You can't do that through natural immunity. Because people from this point on, young people who won't know any better, they're going to think that this is how immunity happens, herd immunity happens. It's not true, and it will continue to be not true, regardless how long these different organizations peddle this misinformation. Let's go ahead and go down here into the article and talk about this. But officials say even those who have developed their own immune protection against COVID-19 still need a drug industry intervention. Everyone is encouraged to get the shot, but pushing naturally immune individuals toward this treatment may actually cause and push them towards greater risk with no benefit to the public health. One survey study found that people with prior COVID-19 illness experienced significantly increased incidence of severity of side effects after receiving the COVID-19 vaccine compared to those who did not have the disease beforehand. Now, this is really interesting. Once again, an unbalanced conversation. Why is nobody willing to look into this? Why is nobody willing to actually check the details out on this? Now, there are many doctors who are coming out saying, hey, look, we're finding that people who have already been sick and then they got the vaccine, we're finding inflammatory reactions all over. There's a cardiologist recently who has made the news several times that is talking about how he's finding inflammatory issues in the cardiovascular system of those who have gotten COVID naturally and then gotten the vaccine after. Now, one of the things that we know to be a truth and to be a fact, and once again, the truth is the truth, it doesn't matter how much the media spins it, is that there's no such thing as a blanket treatment across the board for every single person, right? This has been the big argument about giving children vaccines for years, is that there's some children whose bodies may not be able to deal with it. Well, it's the same thing for adults. And so this idea that you're making these blanket treatments for everybody across the board, were they sick? Were they not sick? Do they have certain health issues? I mean, there's so many variables. Genetics are a huge variable. Is somebody maybe genetically more prone to developing something very serious, a condition very serious after getting the vaccine? These are all questions that are 100% unwilling to be answered by these different media outlets and also these vaccine manufacturers. Quite frankly, they don't know, okay? But it's important to always think critically about this stuff. Very important. Now, as I mentioned, there's this idea that natural immunity doesn't exist anymore, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Now, the thing is, it's very important to understand, though, is that natural immunity comes in many ways. First of all, with natural immunity, we have to make sure that we're taking care of our bodies, just like anything. I mean, you can't expect your cardiovascular system to work appropriately if you don't eat right and you don't exercise. Well, the same thing for our immune system. We can't expect our immune system to work appropriately if we have multiple comorbidities, we're sick, we're unhealthy, we don't take care of ourselves. We also can't expect it to work correctly when we have deficiencies in vitamins, okay? This is something I've been talking about greatly over the past couple years, because many people actually have vitamin D deficiencies. Vitamin D is critically important for your immune system. One of the things I did very on when I learned about all this stuff happening with, the virus, is I worked on putting together immune packets for people so that they could work on boosting their immune system, because we know that true health only comes naturally. We know that we have an immune system that has allowed the human species to survive for thousands of years. So it all comes back down to what can we do to boost our immune system naturally. And so in these immune packs, which I'll put it in a link in the description below, we put things in there like vitamin D and N-acetylcysteine and vitamin C and zinc and all the things that your immune system really needs, all in one simple package, and they're very inexpensive, all in one simple packet so that you can boost your immune system naturally. Now, here's the thing that I believe is probably one of the biggest atrocities of all of this, and where I really think that this is going in terms of public health policy and these big companies, these big monstrosity pharmaceutical companies. I think this is where they're going. I think they're trying to monetize people's immune system. You think about this, right? What better business model out there exists than every time the flu comes out, oh, need a shot for it. Every time a new virus comes out, oh, need a shot for it. I mean, the flu shot, you can look at around the world when many of these different countries went and they did research on the flu shot. They found it to be completely ineffective and useless. You can take the Cochrane Review Group, which is one of the most prestigious research groups out there, and they looked at the flu shot and they said, it's rubbish, it's no good, it's garbage, it doesn't do anything. Well, there's a good chance that we may find that even with COVID, that there's a good chance that natural immunity performed just as good. There's no research out there telling us whether it performs just as good or not. All we have is the research done by the manufacturers of these shots, and of course, they're a little bit biased, folks. So we have to wait and let time and science play the role that it needs to play. But in the meantime, you need to boost your immune system naturally, and you have to realize that there's not a better business model for these folks than having most of the population have the ideology that they cannot survive. They don't have an immune system that does anything for them, and they can't survive without a shot, literally, that protects them from every little thing that comes at them. So you find yourself in a place, oh, the flu, oh, a new virus, oh, and constantly. You can see how this works. Our immune system is constantly fighting for us, but yet if you believe that it can't do anything, then you're constantly buying from these companies. You're constantly buying these shots in order to boost your immune system. And quite frankly, if you think about that, and you take just the United States alone, and you take hundreds of millions of people who believe that they have to buy a shot every single year, every time a little virus comes around, now you see a business model that's highly profitable, okay? So think of these things critically. Make sure that you're taking action, improving your health naturally, and check out some of the other videos on my channel. I'll see you in the next video.